Okay, so guys, when we look at comparative advantage theory basically says is that countries should specialize in those goods where they have a lower opportunity cost of making a good as compared to another country making the same good. So, for example, if Pakistan is making cotton, or if Pakistan is making textile products, and if they can make that good using up fewer resources than as compared to another country, then Pakistan has what we call a comparative advantage in making. So, lower opportunity costs. If you have a lower opportunity cost in the production of a good or service as compared to another country, we say that you have what we call a comparative advantage. And comparative advantage therefore results in us to give up fewer units of other goods, because if you can make a good using fewer resources, then you can devote those resources to the production of another good. So in other words, for Pakistan to make, for example, cotton products or textile products, if they have a lower opportunity cost, this means that they can use those resources to devote to the production of another good, which means that a country has to give up fewer units of the other goods that they're making, because it's cheaper for them to make this good. Makes sense? So fewer of labor, fewer of another sort of goods, and so on. Makes sense? So what is comparative advantage? Comparative advantage means lower opportunity cost of making a good as compared to another country. So the comparative advantage is always in terms of, like two countries making the same good, and one is making it using fewer resources than another country. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, guys? Now let's see this in terms of an example. But if you have a competitive advantage in a good, we believe that if country has a competitive advantage, they should specialize in that good. Okay, and that specialization will result in basically more output, and therefore more efficiency. And I want to show you this in terms of an example today. How does it lead to more output and therefore more efficiency? But before I move on to an example, is there any question that you guys have? Anyone has any question about what we're discussing right now? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to give you an example of two countries. Let's say we're looking at two countries, UK and US. Okay, and UK and US are devoting the same quantity of resources in the production of two goods: vacuum cleaner and digital camera. So there's two countries, UK and US. I'm going to make a table here. In fact, let's make a table. So let's write example. So we have two countries. We have UK and US, and they're making two goods, DC and VC. And I'm going to assume that UK and US are making these goods, vacuum cleaner for VC, DC is digital camera. And I'm going to assume this, that these are the only two goods these countries make, and 50% of their resources go into production of vacuum cleaner, 50% of their uh, resources go in the production of digital cameras. So right now, when this uh, UK split its resources equally, they make 20 of vacuum cleaner and 10 of digital cameras. Okay. Similarly, US, when they split their resources equally in the production of both the goods, they make 10 of vacuum cleaner and 20 of digital camera. Makes sense? So the whole sort of both these countries combined together make 30 and 30 each. And let me write this sort of assumption as well, that both countries are devoting their resources equally in the production of both goods equally. Both goods equally. Okay. So are you all with me? So do you get the example right now? Do we are we agreeing with the example? Is there any question about the example? Anyone? Any question about the example before we move on? So both countries are splitting their resources equally in the production of, and they are managing. UK is managing 20, and US is managing 10, versus like for digital cameras, UK is managing 10 and US is managing 20. Next up, guys, now that we've done that, we can show this in terms of a PPC as well, just to show you this in terms of a PPC. And this PPC is important because a lot of times the MCQs that come are primarily showing us um, these kind of like diagrams too. So we need to show this in terms of diagrams. So DC on the y-axis, DC means digital camera, and VC means vacuum cleaner. Okay. So the PPC for the US is UK is going to be like this. Let me just do it again. It's going to be like this, more like a flatter one. And right now they're making 10 and 20. So that's, let's call it point A. And these guys are making 20 and 10. Let's call this point B. Are you all with me? Does that make sense? So why am I making this diagram? Because and why is this? If you can see this, I've made this point right in the middle. For both these countries, the PPC point that I've chosen is right in the middle, because if I'm devoting half my resources, I'm managing 20, right? If I'm devoting half my resources, I'm managing 20. If I devote all my resources, how much will I manage? That's the question we ask. Arham, you need to mute yourself. Um, Guys, I don't know where you, whether you're in the classes or not, but when you are around, if you're coming to the call, remember you need to make sure you mute yourself. Anyways, so guys, my question to you is, Madiha or anyone here, or Zenobia or whoever is can chat, tell me, guys, if you are making half of your resources are going and you're managing 20, if you completely devote your resources in the production of vacuum cleaner or completely devote your production in terms of digital camera, how much will you manage? Given right now you're managing 10 and 20, if you if half gives you, no Madhya, but if half of your resources give you 20, complete devotion will give you 40. Yeah, 40 and 20 exactly. Isn't that true, guys? Because if half of your resources gives you 20, if you specialize, it will give you 40. If half of give you 10 versus 20. Yeah. Similarly, this would be this corner point would be 20 and 40. Isn't that true? Now, the first step that I'm going to do, because we have now made the PPCs, first step I'm going to do is number one, find out the opportunity cost. Who has a lower opportunity cost? So if you look at UK, guys, if you look at UK, when they make 20 DCs, they sacrifice 40 VC. Or in other words, for one DC, they lose two vacuum cleaner. Yeah, if I take 20 on the other side. So 40 over 20 will make one DC is equal to two VC. Or if I rewrite this, when they make one vacuum cleaner, they lose half digital camera. Do you all agree with me? Does that make sense? Do you all agree with this opportunity cost, guys? Similarly, US, guys, for US, for uh, 20 vacuum cleaner is equal to 40 digital cameras, right? Isn't that true? Which means one vacuum cleaner is equal to two digital cameras, right? Or one digital camera is equal to half vacuum cleaner. Are you all with me? Does that make sense? So if I ask you guys who has a competitive advantage or who has a lower opportunity cost in the production of what good, you will say when the UK make one vacuum cleaner, they only lose half digital camera, which means the opportunity cost is only half as compared to when these guys make one vacuum cleaner, US make one vacuum cleaner, they lose more, they lose two digital cameras. So UK has a lower opportunity cost in making vacuum cleaner as compared to US. So UK has uh, has a comparative advantage in vacuum cleaners, right? While US, if you look at this, US has a comparative advantage in, look at this, guys. When they make one digital camera, they lose half vacuum cleaner. But when these guys make one digital camera, they lose more, they lose two. US has a comparative advantage in digital cameras. Do you guys get that? Does that make sense? Are we good? Do you guys agree with me? Do you all agree with the comparative advantage working that I just do? Because I said that, like one DC is equal to 2 VC, but 1 DC is equal to half VC, which means 1 DC is equal to half VC is lower. This means US has a comparative advantage in cameras. UK has a comparative advantage in vacuum cleaner because when they make 1 VC, they lose half, as compared to US, when they make 1 VC, they lose two. So US should be focusing on digital cameras. US should be focusing on digital cameras, while UK should be focusing on vacuum cleaners because they have a lower opportunity cost. So if I go back to my diagram, guys, can you guys look at this diagram? I want UK to go and focus only on this one. Okay, don't make digital camera at all, only make vacuum cleaner. And US only make digital cameras. Are you all with me, guys? Do you all agree? Do you all agree with the math of it? Am I good to move on? Any questions before we move on? Okay, guys, now we make a specialization. Let's make a specialization after specialization table. Okay, let's write after specialization. The after specialization will look at like this. So this is UK and US, and this is VC and DC. After specialization, guys, UK, if you can look at this, is going to make 40 of vacuum cleaners and zero of digital camera, while US is going to make zero of vacuum cleaner and 40 of digital camera. Suddenly, the world outcome or world output has gone up from 30-30 to 40-40. See, we made them specialized, and the world output has gone up significantly to 40 and 40. Do you guys get that? Do you guys agree with me? Yes? What do you guys think should be the next step? Now that they are specialized, what do you think should be the next step? They should trade. Very good, Ibrahim. They should trade because, and for trade, guys, exactly, exporting should happen or importing should happen, which means trade should happen. For trade, what do we need to come up with? Which means, so for trade, we need to come up with. So my first step basically was opportunity cost. My second step was basically specialization. So this we've done. Number two is specialization, right? Number three is we should make them trade. And in order to make them trade, we need to come up with an acceptable exchange rate, which is also called terms of trade. So we need to come up with exchange rate or terms of trade. So what is an acceptable exchange rate or terms of trade? And the answer is that any exchange rate, okay, that lies between the range of opportunity cost, between the range of opportunity cost is an acceptable exchange rate. Okay, the lies between the range of what do we mean by this? So range is what for UK it's 1 VC is equal to 2 DC, right? In fact, I should write this for UK it's 1 DC is equal to in fact 1 VC is equal to half DC, right? And for US it's 1 VC is equal to 2 1 VC is equal to 2 DC, right? Do you all agree? So, but don't you think specialization will lead to countries being excessively? These are all the points that we'll discuss, Madhya. The specializations has pros and cons, but first, the biggest argument that we want to make is why do we specialize to begin with? Why do people become only doctors, and why don't they become doctor and engineer and farmers and cricketers and footballers at the same time? You know, why do I need to go to a doctor when and I teach only economics? And why do I need to be dependent on some other person? And the answer is this: that there is a reason why you need to be dependent on them, because someone will become better at that task, and therefore you can become better at another task, and this way both parties will benefit. So that's a discussion we're also going to have later. But look at this, guys. 1 VC is equal to half DC, 1 VC is equal to 2 DC. What is a value that can be lying in between these two values? Give me some values that can lie in between this range. Can I say 1 VC is equal to, yeah, 1 VC is equal to 1 DC, or 1 VC is equal to 3 over 4 DC, or 1 VC is equal to um, 3 over 2, 1.5 DC. All of these are acceptable values. So I'm going to choose an easy one. I'm going to choose 1 VC is equal to 1 DC. Okay, this means every time you take one vacuum cleaner from one country, you need to give them one digital camera, or vice versa. If you take one digital camera from one country, you need to give them one in return. Okay, and because this is lying in between the two opportunity costs, this is an acceptable exchange rate. Okay, you guys get that? This is an acceptable exchange rate for us. Make sense? Are we good? Any questions before we move on? Are we good? So now let's see how this will be a useful one. So let's say before specialization, it was 40 and 40. Then after specialization, guys, let's say after specialization, which means trade, UK said to US, we need 20 of digital cameras from you. Okay, if they say we need 20 of digital cameras, then US would say fine, if I give you 20, then I will be left with 20, because that sum will be 40. But in return, for every 20 digital cameras, you need to give me 20 vacuum cleaners. So vacuum cleaners would be given to this country, which means 20 and 20. So this is how it will look like after trade. Do you guys get that? So 1:1 would mean if UK said we need 20 little cameras, And US said, okay, then UK needs to give them 20 vacuum cleaners as well, right? And that's basically going to be now um, the after trade solution. Now, is this better than how we were doing before? How do we see that? And the answer is we will see this in terms of a diagram. Okay, so I'm going to make a diagram where I'm going to show you guys both these countries in the same diagram. Okay, and you will see, and I'll call this your trading. Your trading. I'm going to draw a trading line. Okay, so you will realize how both countries are now going to be producing at a point which was previously unattainable. So this was UK. So UK's color is, I think, blue. If I'm not mistaken, UK is blue. So I'm going to choose blue color for UK. UK is blue, right? So UK, let's choose blue color. So that's, they're making 20 of this and 40 of this, right? US, let's choose a red color. I think that also true. US represents itself with red. I don't know. 40 and 20. Okay. Now, guys, the story is this, that now they are going to be in a UK has moved to this point, A dash, and US had moved to this point, B dash. But because of um, because of international trade and specialization, remember, we have come up with an exchange rate 1 is to 1. 1 VC is equal to 1 DC, which would mean for every 40 vacuum cleaner, guys, if UK says, take all my vacuum cleaners, how much of uh, digital camera will they get in return? For every 40 vacuum cleaner, guys, how much of digital cameras they will get in return? 40. Good job. Isn't that true? For every 40, you'll get 40, which means I'm going to make a line, which is this line, this yellow line, which means no longer is your PPC 40/20. Your new PPC is 40/40. So the blue line will become the yellow line for UK. Are you all with me? Similarly, for US, no longer for 40 you get 20, for 40 you get 40. So both countries are now going to be having an identical PPC, which is 40 is to 40. Do you guys get that? The new exchange rate will become the new trading line of PPC for us. And one combination now they're going to be consuming is going to be this combination of 20 and 20 or this point X. Now look at this, guys. Previously, this X was beyond them. Isn't that true? This was an unattainable combination. But because of specialization and trade, so due to the green line, I didn't make any green line. This is a yellow line. Yeah, for a moment I was like, oh my god, am I getting the yellow line is the acceptable yeah, exactly. The yellow line is my trading line, because for every 40 you used to get 40, for every one you get one, which means for every 40 you get 40. Yeah. So guys, this means that through specialization and trade, we are able to consume at a point which was previously unattainable. Do you guys get that? Does that make sense? Does that make sense, guys? Are we good? Do you guys have any questions? So, guys, this is the big benefit of international trade. What international trade does is that it allows us to specialize. And we should specialize in good where we have a comparative advantage, which means we are relatively better than another country in making that good. And when we do that, when we specialize, then we are basically improving our trading possibilities. This X, if you look at it from a PPC, when your PPC was blue, this was beyond your combination, because you used to consume. Remember, 20 and 10 was used what was used to consume, and similarly, this country was consuming 20 and 10 as well. But through international trade and specialization, we were able to go to a point beyond this, right? Now, there are a lot of discussions that we will have, which is basically to do with competitive advantage. But so PPC, in other words, has shifted for both countries. Exactly, Ibrahim. They have shifted for both countries because now both countries are able to produce at a point which was previously unattainable. Exactly. It's it's a non it's a pivotal shift. Non-pivotal, no, it's a pivotal shift, right? No, pivotal shift for 2022. Yeah, it's a pivotal shift. It's a pivotal shift, which is basically saying that your possibility for DC has gone from 20 to 40. You were still making 40 of this, but 20 to 40. Make sense, guys? Do we get it? Is that fine? So what I'm going to do tomorrow, guys, I'm going to go over this example one more time, and I'm going to build on this because this is called comparative advantage. But there's something called absolute advantage as well, which is what we go through on Monday. We'll talk about absolute comparative. We'll look at MCQs. We'll look at questions. We'll talk about how do we get to comparative advantage, and so on and so forth. Okay, does that make sense? Are we good? Any questions, guys? Any questions before we? Thank you, Madia. Thank you, everyone. Guys, I'm gonna end on this note, and inshallah, I'll see you on Monday in person at school. Okay, bye bye.